since not everyone has access to a Kinarm right now, not everyone has necessarily seen how to, or may not be particularly familiar with Kinarms, we're going to start with something relatively straightforward, just a basic overview of Dexterit-E, just the kind of the basic things you're going to need to hit on in order to, well, do anything with Dexterit-E, to gather your data and then take a look at it later. So without further ado, this is going to be, this is a view of the subject database in Dexterit-E. So when you want to go collect some data, this is where you're going to start. You can see this subjects tab up here. So that's where all of your subject data is going to be. When you need to collect data, you're either going to select an existing subject in your database or click this button to create a new subject. This is what it looks like when you're going to create a subject. So everything in red are going to be required fields. These can be you can fill them in with any information you want. So the ID can be anything you want, or you can just accept the randomly generated one we have. First name, last name. You know, lots of different institutions have privacy concerns. You don't need to use a person's real first name and last name. You can use some initials or whatever you want to set up for your as part of your data collection standard. But we just need something in there. Date of birth, similar sort of idea. Again, lots of people have privacy concerns. You can make it the first of the month. It doesn't, of the month they were born. It doesn't really matter. The date of birth is most important for if you're going to be collecting some of our standard tasks, because we need to be able to use that to calculate their actual age, so you can get a proper score for that person when they've run a task. And things like height and weight don't need to be exact. We use them as a measure to help us do some things within the robot to calculate movements properly. But yeah, so you don't need to worry too much about the exactness of this information, but we do need something there. On the other side, we have some other fields you can fill in, and these are mainly for you to help categorize your data as you're collecting it. You have complete control over these lists. So for pathology, these are some pathologies that we provide out of the box. But if you want to add some of your own because you're studying something else, you can change these lists however you would like. So you've gone through, you've created your subject, you've added all of the relevant information. The next thing you're going to want to do is move over to one of these other tabs where you will actually collect data. So right now we're looking at the custom tasks tab. That's where you're going to be spending a fair amount of time this week, because this is the tab that shows you the tasks that you make. So to collect data, the first thing you're going to want to do is select an operator. Again, you can add an operator that isn't in the list if you need to. Always good to have an operator selected for your task. That way later when someone's looking at it, they can say who collected this data and maybe ask them a question if something looks funny. That can be pretty important later when you're analyzing. Next, you're going to choose an arm to be assessed. So this is useful for things like if you're doing a reaching experiment and you want to use the right arm versus the left arm. That's what this is about, is which arm will this task be run on. It's not always relevant, but often it is. So if you have a bimanual task, it might not be relevant, but for any unimanual task, you'll need to select the arm. Next, you select a protocol that you want to run. So we'll go through some of what these protocols are later, but effectively they are the detailed information about what's going to happen during your task. So there is a task program, and then below it there's going to be a task protocol, and the task protocol is the thing you actually run. So you select your task protocol and click the go button. When you click go, lots of stuff is going to happen in terms of checking and making sure the system is ready to go, but eventually the task will start running and your participant will be able to start working with your task or working with the robot. Once you've hit go, that button switches to a pause button. So that will allow you to temporarily pause your task. If your subject needs to stop for a minute for whatever reason, you can do that. And as your task is running, so you can see, so this is what Dexterit-E looks like, the main screen. Up in this top corner, there's all kinds of information that will tell you how your task is progressing. So for instance, it'll tell you what task protocol you're on. So that's kind of what's happening in this current trial protocol. What will happen in the current trial? It's how far along you are in the task. So in this case, someone's run 4 trials out of 80 that they're supposed to run. So lots of good information there to help you monitor how far your task is going, or how far your task has come, and what's left to do. Below that, there's other information, and this is the hand paths that the subject has gone through during the task, and below that is the event history, and the event history is going to be it's set up by the task programmer, and it's going to tell you in this case things like the target turned on, or the perturbation began, or the subject left the target. So again, very useful information to help monitor how the task is progressing. And we'll go over how to use that as part of the camp, and how to make your own events happen. So you've gone through, you've created your subject, you've collected some data. The next thing you're going to want to do is possibly take a look at that data. Now, when we go back to the subject database, we're back on the subject tab, and we're looking at the subject database. You would select your subject, and when you do, you will get this list of all of the exams that the subject has run so far. So if you've collected some data today, you'd want to right click on an exam and export that file from the database. So that's going to pull out a zip file from the database, and with that you can then take that to MATLAB and do some analysis of your own if you want to. And again, that's stuff we're gonna, that part of it we'll go over later. But this is how you pull some data out of your database. Okay. Another big part of what you'll be looking at is editing task protocols. So I mentioned before, we're looking at custom tasks. So these are the ones that you create. We would select a task protocol, and from there, we're going to click this little edit button down here, and that's going to bring up an interface that allows you to do all of your protocol editing. And next, it's a useful tool is the study protocol. So a study protocol allows you to set up an ordered list of exams that you would like run. So this can be very useful for you, but also very especially if someone else is collecting your data and you need it collected in a certain order and certain specific exams collected. What you do is you go under options, studies, and study protocols. These are the different study names. You can create your own name. Doesn't matter what it is. But once you've got a name created, you click the edit study protocol button, and you'll get an interface that looks like this, where you get to add tasks. You can add notes about the different tasks, and basically put together how you would like your study to be run. And then when you go to run this, there's also a study tab that is where you would go to run your tasks from the study tab. Okay. And when you run into trouble, we hope you don't run into trouble, but if you do, something we'll often ask from you is to get a log file. And to do that, you would go to generate log under help, and it's just going to bring up this little interface. We'll tell you if there's any extra information that we need you to get for us, but usually we just want kind of the basic logs, so don't need to click anything, just hit next, and that's going to generate a zip file on your desktop, and we would just want you to email that to our support line. So if we ever ask you to generate a log, that's going to be what you need to look at, and where you would get that. So there is a workshop for this talk, just to kind of go through a few things, but since we know not everybody has a Kinarm available to them right now, you can just take a look at that workshop later and work through it when you've got some time to actually get to your Kinarm. But it's just some things to gather some data and play with a few of these tasks. Now I'm just going to show you. Let's see, I have got, there we go. All right, so this is Dexterit-E. I just kind of wanted to show you a quick overview. So again, here's our subject database. So once you've got your subject selected, you've got your different tabs. So studies, standard tasks, custom tasks. And basically moving through it, you would just select your task protocol and hit. Nope, apparently I've got that is my wrong task. That's the one I want. Let's see here. So now I'm just going to load my task, and then I can hit go, and it's going to give me a little warning. But now I am collecting some data. So nothing going on because I actually don't have a robot attached to this, but I'll just stop that. But that's the basic flow. Select your subject, custom tasks, select your task, hit go. So for the most normal operation, pretty straightforward set of steps. And I can go back and say, oh, look, there's the data that I actually just collected just now. Right click and export file from database. And that's just going to save a zip on my desktop. So that's the very basic overview of Dexterit-E. Hopefully you'll get a chance to use this a lot more hands-on over the next few days if you've got access to a Kinarm. And if you don't, hopefully it's mostly straightforward enough to get that you'll be able to figure most of it out. But definitely, when you run into troubles, if you have any questions, just let us know. We would be more than happy to help you.